Now to a frightening headline about your smartphone. Samsung delaying shipments of its Galaxy Note 7 amid reports of exploding.
Is that they are going to be replacing all of their Galaxy Note 7 products.
Samsung Electronics has announced a global recall of its new flagship phablet, the Galaxy Note 7, just 2 weeks after its launch.
Samsung hopes to make a comeback after a pretty tough year for the tech giant. They've just debuted their highly anticipated Galaxy S8.
The Samsung Galaxy S8 Plus. I think Samsung made quite the comeback after the fireworks. A next level design on a flagship, feature-packed powerhouse with a Quad HD, bezel-less display, and all of the biometrics that you could ask for. Sounds a lot like a concept, and Samsung made it a reality, resulting in a smartphone that looks and feels ahead of its time. A massive 6.2-inch 2K Super AMOLED display sits in the palm of your hand with 84% screen to body ratio, and I've quickly gotten used to the large size. It's a smooth feeling phone yet comfortable to hold, nothing but Gorilla Glass 5 on both the front and back, and it's borderline therapeutic just staring at this phone. So mesmerizing, so gorgeous. Samsung calls this their infinity display, inspired by those popular infinity pools that tapers off the edges. I will say though, the display is still vulnerable even with the case on. I prefer a case like this. This is a full body clear jacket that wraps the front and the back. This way the display is protected also. And I have a full box of different cases for the Galaxy S8. Hit that like button if you'd like to see a video on these, and I may even give these away, so be sure to follow me on social media for the latest on that. Both the S8 and S8 Plus come in 5 colors. We have Midnight Black, Orchid Gray, Arctic Silver. Of course I chose silver. If you know me by now, there's no better color in my opinion. I think it looks too sexy, plus it's synonymous with anything futuristic. Outside the US, the other 2 colors would be Coral Blue and Maple Gold, as we've seen with the late Note 7. And all models ship with 64GB of storage and 4GB of RAM, which really doesn't mean much on this phone, and I'll explain later. All of the familiar features carry over from the previous models: the micro SD card slot expansion, IP68 water resistance, fast wireless charging, USB Type-C quick charge 2.0. It's not the latest, but it's still incredibly quick. We get a 3500 mAh battery as opposed to 3000 mAh on its little brother 5.8-inch Galaxy S8, and I'll elaborate on battery towards the end of this video. So similar to the LG G6, the Galaxy S8 is the second smartphone with a 2:1 display, but slightly taller with a 8.5:9 aspect ratio. So it's not quite cinema ratio. However, this display is mobile HDR certified, so Amazon Prime Video and Netflix both offer HDR titles, though their libraries are still relatively limited. We will soon be able to stream HDR titles to mobile devices, but in the meantime, you can still punch in and enjoy these would-be HDR titles in incredible detail and color thanks to that Super AMOLED display. It's just too easy to become immersed on a display like this, and you'll find yourself watching movies just because. And the nice thing is that the YouTube app on this phone is optimized, letting you crop into 16:9 content so you can take advantage of the entire screen real estate. Now you will lose some information around the borders, but most videos don't look half bad. So goodbye to the physical home button, hello to capacitive nav buttons. So the invisible home button works whether the screen is on or off, and similar to 3D touch on the iPhone, you receive haptic feedback when pressure is applied, and it takes you to the home screen from wherever you were at, and I really do like that a lot. It's much easier than having to use the power button to wake the device, and I'm a huge fan of this new home button, so great move by Samsung. By default, the back and menu buttons have been reversed, but they can be swapped in the settings. So glad that that's an option, and I did go ahead and swap them since that's the layout that I'm used to. A lot of people don't like the new placement of the fingerprint sensor, and I get it. Sure, it could have been better, but adjusting was really not that big of a deal as some make it seem. I have an average sized hand and my muscle memory adapted within a couple hours. I can only speak for myself, but if you still find that you hate it, the other biometric options are iris scanning and facial recognition. So facial recognition isn't anything new, we've seen this years ago, and it's just too easy to spoof with, let's say, a photograph of you. In fact, Samsung even cautions you before setting this up, and I just don't use it. I prefer enabling the fingerprint or the iris scanning. In fact, here's a quick tip. Some people don't like to swipe to activate the iris scanner. Well, if you toggle this switch in the iris settings, it eliminates the need to have to do that, and the iris scanner is activated immediately once the screen is on. And just look at that. Look at how much more seamless unlocking this phone is. Plus, it's far more secure than facial recognition and equally just as fast. So much so that I rarely have been using the fingerprint, only if I need to verify certain apps and stuff. They really polished up the Samsung Experience UI, taking cues from the competition. Aside from everything looking extra clean, accessing the app drawer requires a simple swipe up or down gesture, and you can also enable fingerprint gestures from within the settings, so a swipe down on the fingerprint scanner pulls down your notifications. Look familiar yet? Clearly a lot of influence from the Google Pixel, and I'm not mad at that at all. However, despite how much I like these improvements, sadly it's still the TouchWiz framework underneath. And from my experience, I still got the occasional stutter when performing such basic gestures like opening the app drawer or pulling down notifications. Dropped frames are noticeable, and I'm not sure how Samsung still hasn't figured out software yet. All that said, I do appreciate the effort Samsung's put forth to improve their UI, and I didn't experience any lag while performing any other task outside of those. I do like how you can crop multitask a portion of an app. Samsung really seems to be wanting to master this whole multitasking thing. Pop-up window multitasking is as fluid as it's ever been. Some very handy stuff here. And the App's Edge Smart Select tools are much appreciated for custom screenshots. Pin to top seems to be a new option where you can pin a screenshot over everything else, and I can see this being useful if you need to copy information across the UI. I'm still disappointed in that single downfiring speaker. It still sounds terrible compared to the competition. It's not cool on Samsung's part for incorporating tinny sound paired with such a gorgeous display. Now on the flip side, with its 3.5mm headphone jack, you can take advantage of its high quality audio playback supporting a bunch of different audio formats at high bit rates, ideally allowing you to experience music close to the way it was recorded. And they've included a pair of professionally tuned AKG headphones to take advantage of this. So I streamed some Spotify tracks on extreme quality, which streams at 320 kilobits per second, just to see if I noticed anything, and nope, not really. Maybe it differs from song to song, but I wouldn't really expect much from bundled headphones. Besides, I'm usually tethered to a pair of Bluetooth earbuds anyway. Speaking of, this is the first smartphone ever to support Bluetooth 5.0. The biggest feature of this is that it allows you to stream music to two separate Bluetooth devices simultaneously. Basically, you just have to pair two of your favorite speakers to your phone and then dive inside Bluetooth settings, which you can then switch on dual audio and begin playing audio. It's really that simple. You can even control the volume independently on each device. You will experience a slight delay in playback, causing some echoing, but the fact that you're able to do this is a pretty big deal. So Bixby is Samsung's virtual UI assistant that's currently unavailable at launch, which looks bad for Samsung, and it'll be able to handle contextual voice commands throughout the UI, analyzing content on your screen, just like Google Assistant does, and they've dedicated an entire button for it right below the volume buttons, which I accidentally launched more times than I would like. At the moment, it's currently set to launch Hello Bixby, which is similar to the Google Now experience with cards and reminders. I can't say much, and I'm gonna have to revisit Bixby once they're serious. Some of the Bixby's DNA can be found in the camera with Bixby Vision. So they partner with Amazon and Pinterest to provide image searches and shopping results based on what the camera identifies. Now this could be a hit or miss at times. I find that you usually have to manually tighten in to get better results. It does great with labels, sometimes it struggles with objects, and I'm confident that this will improve over time via a software update. So on the rear, we get the same f1.7 12.2 megapixel camera that's carried over from the GS7, meaning you still get that snappy phase detection autofocus and incredible low light performance with its large 1.4 micron pixels. Now that secondary front-facing camera is where we see an increase from 5 megapixels to 8 megapixels with the same f1.7 aperture, equipped with smart autofocus this time around. Generous feature to have, is not as sophisticated as phase detection autofocus, but it still does a pretty decent job. It's made with the selfie in mind. Now mind you, I kind of grew out of selfies, but I was able to capture some clear shots while I was out and about. You're now able to record QHD video at 30 frames per second, which is another welcome improvement. So you should feel comfortable using this camera to document a night out with your friends or any other form of self-documentation. So Samsung introduced their new multi-frame image processing, and they were kind of vague about when this kicks in, but I found it to be more evident in HDR mode. So unlike traditional HDR that combines the exposure levels of 3 photos, is really designed to work best for low light photos, and it uses the information in the other 2 to do things like increase brightness, enhance detail, and reduce blur, producing overall sharper low light images even when you've zoomed in a bit. Best of all, it's able to process and save these photos lightning fast thanks to its new 10nm chip and its fast universal flash storage 2.1. And the results are really impressive with this new processing. Outdoor shots look exceptionally great. It's really hard to take a bad photo with the Galaxy S8, easily one of the best point and shoot smartphone cameras available right now. Now, some handy features to the camera app include sliding the shutter button to dial in and out of photos using digital zoom. It's not something I really toy with too much. I would prefer a dual lens setup for that. You also get these cool Snapchat-like filters. They don't seem to change up like Snapchat, but I had a little too much fun messing around with them. Of course for a demonstration only, but I could see this easily being a hit with young millennials. And you also get a floating camera shutter option that allows you to place the shutter wherever you want on the screen. I think this is great for spontaneous photography. Now on to the battery. So I can only speak for myself when I say that the battery life on this phone has been fantastic for me. I consider myself a heavy user, but not an aggressive one. Like, I'm not into gaming, but I do watch a lot of videos and I do a ton of web browsing, mostly stationary, so the cell signal isn't constantly switching towers. And I've been consistently getting a full days of use on a daily basis, hitting in upwards of 7 hours of on-screen time, and that was with the screen resolution set to full QHD, and I was on auto brightness. Plus, Quick Charge 2.0 came through when I did need to recharge, picking me back up within about an hour. So my final takeaway, Samsung is giving us a lot with this smartphone. They're really trying to cover all grounds here. That said, there's no smartphone that's perfect. I've already addressed my concerns with this phone. But if we do want to go there, the Galaxy S8, in my opinion, is as close to a perfect smartphone that you're going to get. And I say that with sheer confidence. What do you guys think? Go ahead and drop those comments down below letting me know. And as always, if you enjoyed this video, go ahead and show me some love by hitting that like button. And if this is your first time on the channel, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on some more awesome tech videos. I want to thank each and every one of you guys for watching, and I will see you in the next video.